Hello, my name is Brian. It's been a while since I posted one of these videos, so I'm gonna get right to it. Today I will be discussing one of my new rebranded programs called Pharmaceutical. Pharmaceutical is a sort of rebrand and improvisation on a previous program that I had that was previously known as Pharmacy Simulator. Since then, I've pretty much rebranded all my programs into acronyms to not only get them to be certified a little bit easier in terms of the name, but also to make them a little bit cool. So pharmaceutical, it's a little bit of a long acronym, stands for Pharmaceuticals Harness Algorithms Recursively, making activities chronically, encouragingly useful towards illness, care, and longevity. Try saying that 7 times. But this essentially builds upon some of the assets that I used to have for my pharmacy simulator program and improvises and creates a lot of interesting new options that I will showcase in very short depth. So without further ado, let me start running the program. I cannot wait to show this off. So of course, the password aspect of the program is still intact. So the password is still pharmaceutical for this program. It's going to prompt us for a technician entry. So of course, there are 4 people currently in the registrar. So let's try signing in as Josh. So when we sign in as Josh, we have 5 people. Sorry, not 5 people, 5 options. So it replaced some of the options that were last seen in Pharmacy Simulator that either really didn't make much sense or were not persistently useful in a way. So 2 of the main ones that it did replace were options 1 and 2. So as you can see, we could actually start searching up for patients in our database. So if I look up a patient that I have looked up so many times that I have literally memorized their date of birth by now, we can see that we have found Morgan Moore Gonzalez. And then it gives us a couple options of what to do with this patient. So if we want to type up her personal information, we just hit the option. Voila. We have her name, her date of birth, the list of medications that she's currently taking, as well as the address and the allergies that she may or may not have. And this goes for a plethora of patients that I have in a database just to simulate a pharmacy, which is what the entire purpose of this whole program is. So, of course, with that option as well, you also have the option to scan a prescription. This code is a little, it's not perfect. Still working out the bugs for this, but this is just a demonstration to see. I do apologize. My computer did undergo some technical issues, but we're past that. So I'm back to where I was. I'm still logged in as Josh. So we shall type a physical prescription. So we're going to pretend that we are inserting a physical prescription to be scanned and typed in. So when typed done, it's a little fun feature that I have of the computer pretending to scan something. And then, of course, I'm still planning on figuring out what to do with this implementation. For now, this isn't really going to implement or change anything in the medication list for a specific patient, so we could realistically put whatever we want for this. And the system won't flag it. So this is not going to get added to this almost 100-year-old patient. So let's explore more avenues. So let's see, searching for a medication. So let's say you have a medication that is in front of you, but you don't really know the name of it. And you want to look up more information on this said medication. A really common medication in pharmacy is amlodipine. If you look up amlodipine, it's going to give us the name of the medication and what it's used for. And this applies for a plethora of medications. So, for example, look up a lesser known one like Trulicity. This is a GLP-1. Of course, if it's not in the registrar, it's not obviously going to give you the result that it's not going to be found. But if we try looking at more medications, eventually we will come across one that we will find. So let's see. If I look through the pharmaceutical list, say I want to look for escitalopram. If you aren't around psych or psychologists a lot, you would not know that escitalopram, also known as Lexapro, is also used to help treat depression and generalized anxiety disorder. So this is another useful resource that's actually relevant to the program itself that you can use in terms of just logging in. This is always going to be an available resource for whoever logs in. More on that later. I kept the Kinray order into place just because I liked the functionality of it and the relevancy. And then the last feature that I revamped was adding SIG codes. So for those that aren't aware, when pharmacies receive prescriptions, they have to sometimes abbreviate some of the directions, or they come in abbreviated like that, and they have to be translated for sort of patient confidentiality in a way. So how would this work? It's gonna ask us if you want to use this more than once. Just do one example. It's 3:50 a.m. I would love to go to bed. I have work at 9 o'clock in the morning. So let's say, for example, I get a prescription bottle that says TK, TID, QD, PO. That's obviously makes absolutely no sense to the average human, but this is supposed to be a translator for this kind of thing. So of course, if I hit enter, it's actually going to print out the revised directions. So since I work in pharmacy, this is like common sense to me. But somebody that might be new or a patient themselves that might not understand the directions on their prescription bottle could definitely use this to their advantage. So of course, TK, TID, QD, these are all abbreviations for take 3 times a day, every day, orally, so by mouth. And this could be used for a plethora of resources in terms of actually figuring out medications that are actually useful for technicians, which I think is a great thing. So another cool feature that I have added is role-based access control. So we have logged in as Josh for this session. Let's say I want to log in as somebody else. So I'm tired of being Josh right now. Let's be somebody else. Let's be myself. If I log in as me, we have way more options with pharmacist only options, which is fun. So we have new options such as review technician login records, add a pharmacy tech to the registrar, and then documenting control substance I kept in from last time. Just add a little bit of substance. It doesn't really do much. I'll find some way to improvise on that a little bit later. But regarding login records, let's actually see what this means. So if I log out for now, if I go to some of my files regarding the program, you can see I have a couple files that log a couple different things. If I go to logs, and I open the logs, you can actually see this doesn't demonstrate everything because this was one of the last features that I implemented. But having tested this program so many times, you could actually see the amount of times. It's probably more than this because I've had the program wipe some of the records clean sometimes. But you can see the login times per employee. And being that this is something that a pharmacist should really only have access to, I have actually implemented what's really one of my favorite features of this entire revamp. I used to have a technician class to specify technician only events necessarily. This didn't really exist back then. It was kind of just assumed that everybody would be a technician, but I decided to make a class so that I could also create a pharmacist class, which can add employees, print logins, and then assume the kind of sort of, how do I word this, pharmacist gateway to obtain all these role-based access controls that every other technician would not have. So I'll open the logs again. Let's say I need a little bit more help here. So right now, my employees are myself, Josh, Sandy, and Catherine. This is not gonna fly with how understaffed we are. So what can we do about that? Somebody wants to work for me. If I log in as myself, say for example, I want to add, I don't know, Let me think of somebody. Let's add Daniel to a register. It's going to ask me if Daniel is a technician or a pharmacist. Let's say he's a technician. If I log out, let's see what happens when I open the logs. So we have Brian, Josh, Sandy, Catherine, and now we have Daniel as a viable option for a technician. So I think this is a very, very cool thing in order to keep with the cordiality of the entire program. Because now if I try to log in as Daniel, per se, Daniel is now a technician. So this is one of my favorite new revamped features of this entire program, because now I can make changes to the program and have them outlast even when I close it. It's always going to reference these kinds of things. And then the last thing I just wanted to show off was this other new option of just reviewing technician records. This is really important, especially for cyber related or security measures, just to make sure that people are properly logging in during, let's say, their scheduled times. Wanted to look up the login times for any single one of my employees. Say, I'm really suspicious of Sandy. Sandy just giving me a really odd vibe lately. If I select Sandy, gives me a entire list of all her login sessions in consequential order. So the earliest to latest just prints the whole thing out. So this is another really nice security measure that's also fairly somewhat relevant to pharmacies that I feel fits really well into this pharmaceutical program. So all in all, this is what I will conclude with. Thank you for witnessing a lot of the new efforts that I have put into this revamp. I hope you enjoy it. If you're willing to test it out, the code should be up on GitHub by now. Thank you again for witnessing the the revamp of my new and transformative project, Pharmaceutical.